All right, so we're coming back now, and we're going to be joined by Meghan Murphy, who's a Canadian writer, journalist. She's based in Vancouver. She has written, spoken about, and talked and criticized third wave feminism, male feminists, the sex industry, the exploitation of women in mass media, censorship, gender identity legislation. The list literally goes on and on. Meghan is a fierce advocate, and recently she was debanked, coincidentally at the same time that she became a registered candidate for the People's Party of Canada in our current snap federal election. Meghan, thanks so much for joining us. And maybe we can also just show your Substack post here for anybody, any of our viewers that aren't aware of what happened to you 2 weeks ago now, or just under 2 weeks last week. And so they can find it a little bit more. But if you could brief the audience, just give us a broad overview of what exactly happened to your bank account. And I understand you're living abroad.
Yeah, so it was 2 weeks ago, Tuesday, the very same day that my candidacy was, well, my candidacy was confirmed with Elections Canada. I discovered that my bank account was frozen. So that was a bit of a red flag for me. But I called my bank. No one would give me any answers. No one would tell me why. I was given the runaround. I called back, and I was finally able to extricate from them that they had frozen my bank account due to orders from the government. I asked for something in writing. They refused to give me anything in writing. They finally told me that they had received a fax. I asked if I could see the fax. They said no. And they gave me a contact number at the government, which I called. I couldn't reach anyone there. I left message after message after message. I tried calling general numbers. No one would call me back. No one would give me any information. So I'm still in the dark about why the account was frozen. And I can't say for certain that it was politically motivated, but it does seem very, very strange to me that the bank account that I've had with Van City Credit Union since I was 10 years old was suddenly frozen the day that my candidacy was confirmed with the People's Party of Canada. And, as you said earlier, I've been a political dissident in Canada for at least a decade now and have been subject to all sorts of suppression and censorship and blacklisting and protests. And I left Canada 4 years ago, in part because I didn't feel safe in my East Vancouver neighborhood, which is where I'm running. I'm running in the riding of Vancouver East, and I had become such a target of the trans activists there on account of speaking out in defense of reality, in defense of women's spaces, in opposition to gender identity ideology, that, I'd been stalked around my neighborhood. I had obviously been threatened many, many times. I'd been protested. I'd been screamed at and attacked in various places in public. And the Vancouver East riding, for those unfamiliar, is an extremely leftist riding, perhaps the most leftist riding in Canada. It's an NDP stronghold. So running there was not about any expectation that I would be elected, but to present a challenge to that NDP stronghold and to all of those people living in that riding who think that they can continue to operate like these authoritarian bullies and that no one will stand up for them and that everyone is too scared to challenge them. Like even just putting a sign with my face on it attached to the PPC logo is, courageous in and of itself. I've already gotten emails from people saying they put signs up and immediately they were stolen off their lawn.
Wow.
It's just, it's a really bad area full of people who think that they're really good people.
Can I ask
Yeah.
you how long your bank account was frozen and if it's still frozen at this moment?
Yeah, it's still frozen, so I can't do anything with it. So it's been a little over 2 weeks now. I did wait about a week to go public because I was trying to see if I could get more information and if I could get any answers from anyone, and I could not after many, many days of effort. So, I just gave up and I was like, okay, you've dug your own grave here. I'm going public with this and it's not going to make you look good. I was supposed to be back in Vancouver campaigning and I canceled my flight because this happened. And I just felt, this is too big a risk. I mean, it's obviously difficult for me to operate in Canada without access to a Canadian bank account or my Canadian credit card. But I also just thought, I don't know what they're up to, and I'm not risking going back to Canada and, being criminalized in some way after what they did to the convoy. I don't trust the government. Nobody should trust the government after what they did to the convoy. But, the government is still dragging, Tamara Leach and Chris Barber through the court, trying to like apply various nonsense charges to them, trying to throw them in jail. There's still convoy participants that are in jail. We all know that they froze hundreds of people's bank accounts. I'm still getting emails from people telling me, I donated $50 to the convoy and the government like froze my bank account. We're under an authoritarian government, and the people who are still planning to vote liberal think that they're fighting authoritarianism and fascism, and it's mind-boggling to me.
Meghan, can I ask you, because I know that for the convoy, there is many that are now in the class action fighting for justice because they had their bank account frozen. Are you maybe looking for legal action regarding what they did to you?
I don't think so. I'll be honest, I want to extricate myself from Canada and the Canadian government financially. I don't want to be stuck in court with the government for the next however many years with a government that has an endless supply of money that I would lose to. I don't want to be in Canada. I think a government that would do this to their own citizens, I would prefer to not deal with at all. So I have an American bank account, so I'm not completely stuck. But the reason that I have an American bank account and the reason that I started a few years ago moving my finances and my income over to the US was exactly because of this, because I thought, they're going to come for me. I, again, saw what they did to the convoy and the convoy participants. I saw what path the government was going down during COVID with the mandates. And I not only thought, I don't want to be paying taxes to this government. I'm not paying taxes to a government that's trying to suppress me and oppress me and silence me and like potentially criminalize me. But also, I just don't trust them. And I thought, they might do this to me one day. I thought it was probably very likely that they would try to do this to me one day. And in fact, they did.
And not that your confidence in Canada is very high, but how has this affected your ability to campaign in this NDP stronghold riding?
Well, I haven't been able to. I mean, I've been able to do as much as I can online, and I have a lot of support actually in Vancouver and in Canada in general, which I really appreciate. And we have volunteers helping us out and bringing people window signs and lawn signs and passing out flyers and things like that. But as I said, I had a flight booked back and I was planning to come back and participate in the all candidates meetings and debates and do some events with Maxime Bernier and potentially do some events on my own. I would have loved to meet people in the riding, and unfortunately I just didn't feel safe doing so. So I haven't been able to go back. So it's affected my campaign a lot. So, as far as I'm concerned, it constitutes election interference in a lot of ways.
Did you try to
Sorry, go ahead, Alexa.
So much, Kesha. Did you try to reach out to some of the politicians, maybe in your riding or something like that, to expose what is going on? Because sometimes from the inside, there is probably something that can be done. Did you try to reach out to some of the people that can maybe help you out in your riding or in Vancouver?
No, it didn't occur to me that any of those politicians from the other parties would want to help me out in this regard, to be honest. Maybe I'm wrong there, but I don't imagine that any of the politicians running in my riding would have any pull with the Canadian government, nor would I presume that, you know, anyone who did a pull with the Canadian government in that way would be on my side. I mean, it's a, you know, this is a Liberal Party government, right? And if they're suppressing dissidents, I suspect that the NDP and the Liberal Party would be on board with that.
What do you think the government, I mean, obviously campaigning and registering to campaign from another country, do you think that that had anything to do with the freezing of your account? Not that it's justified in any sense of the word, but you know, having someone campaign or register to campaign who doesn't currently live in the country, could that have played a role here?
No, I have residency in Canada. I go back there regularly enough. I have a residence in the riding in Vancouver, in East Van, and I've still continued to come back to Canada and maintain my residency. So no, it wouldn't have made any difference in that regard. And everything was above board there.
Do you think if you had have won the seat in your riding that you would have come back? That you know, if the government hadn't conducted itself in such an egregious, arbitrary way, that you would have maybe considered coming back to Canada?
Yeah, of course. Of course. I would have come back to do my job for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not going fighting for Canada. I'll fight for Canada from here if I have to.
We need it.
Do you have any concern? Because it seems that we are taking the path to normalize frozen bank account and banking people just for their opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that should the Liberal Party win the election next week, that's where we're headed. Absolutely. I absolutely think that things will get worse in that regard in terms of things like punishing people by freezing their access to their bank accounts, or, you know, I'm certain that the Liberal Party will push through Bill C-63 and crack down on so-called online hate speech. Bill C-63, of course, you all are familiar with, but for those who don't know, would allow regular individuals to anonymously report other individuals for what they consider to be online hate speech, which would see them dragged through these human rights tribunals, fined tens of thousands of dollars, and potentially jailed. You know, if the Liberal Party wins this election, we're headed into a real communist country, and we're already halfway there.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for joining us, Meghan. I just have one other question, and then we'll have to let you go. But what's next for you? Are you just cutting your hands clean? Are you washing your hands clean from this? Or are you just going to say, you know what, take the money and run if you need it so bad, Canadian government? What's next, and where can people follow you and find out more?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty done. I'm feeling pretty done with Canada and the Canadian government. I hate to say, I know that it's cynical, and again, it doesn't mean that I'm abandoning Canadians. I'll still fight for Canadians, but what this government has done over the past 10 years is reprehensible, and what they're continuing to do is reprehensible. And I think things are only going to get worse unless people wake up and fight back.
I agree. And for anybody who's not familiar with you or your work, they can find you on your Substack. I assume your
MeghanMurphy.ca. Sorry about that. I know you asked me that before. I'm at MeghanMurphy.ca or search Meghan Murphy on Substack. My podcast is The Same Drugs on Spotify, and I'm on X at Meghan E. Murphy.
Oh, you're not on Blue Sky.
I didn't think I'd do too well there.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Meghan. Keep in touch.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, there you go. Meghan Murphy debanked by the Canadian government 2 weeks ago. This is not, you know, COVID reminiscent Freedom Convoy stuff. This is still happening today in 2025, Canada.
Let's face it, Canada's economy isn't heading in the right direction. Inflation's eating away your savings, and government debt is out of control. No politician is going to fix that overnight. With Guildhall Wealth, you can hold real physical gold and silver inside your RRSP. It's a time-tested way to protect your retirement and take back control of your wealth. Call 1-877-8-SILVER or visit guildhallwealth.com/rebel to request your free investor kit. And hey, make sure to mention Rebel News.